Welcome back to Energy Atlas, the podcast where we explore smarter ways to power the world. I'm your host, Rasul. Today, we will examine why global oil demand is proving more resilient than many transition scenarios expected, based on the International Energy Agency's latest World Energy Outlook. As governments expand clean energy deployment and climate commitments, oil demand was widely expected to peak and decline. However, under current policies, consumption continues to grow. This raises important questions about the pace of structural change, investment need, and the gap between long-term climate targets and near-term outcomes. Let's look at what is driving this trend and what it means for energy markets, investors, and climate policy. The International Energy Agency published several outlook scenarios, each based on different assumptions. The current policy scenario reflects only measures that governments have already implemented, without assuming stronger future action. Under this scenario, global oil demand rises from around 100 million barrels per day in the mid-2020s to approximately 113 million barrels per day by 2050. This outcome does not imply renewed dependence on oil. Instead, it reflects the gradual nature of energy system change. Long-lived infrastructure, slow capital turnover, and uneven policy implementation limit how quickly demand can fall. Transport remains the largest source of global oil consumption. Electric vehicle adoption is expanding, but progress varies widely across regions. High vehicle prices, limited charging infrastructure, and policy uncertainty continue to slow the replacement of internal combustion engines in many markets. As a result, oil demand in road transport declines more slowly than previously anticipated. And beyond road transport, oil demand remains structurally strong in aviation, shipping, and petrochemicals. These sectors face higher costs and technical barriers to substitution, and demand growth continues to follow population and economic expansion. Sustained oil demand requires continued investment in supply. Oil fields experience natural decline, meaning that even stable production requires ongoing capital investment. Under the International Energy Agency's projections, additional upstream investment is necessary to meet rising demand and offset depletion. If investment does not keep pace, supply tightness becomes more likely. In such conditions, the International Energy Agency indicates that oil prices could approach $90 per barrel by the mid-2030s under certain market assumptions. And this reflects a growing tension in energy markets. Expectations of a rapid transition discourage long-term investment, while demand under current policies still requires sustained production. Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries described the current policy scenario as a more realistic reflection of economic and political conditions, emphasizing the continued role of oil in the global energy system. From the producer perspective, stable investment is necessary to avoid future supply disruptions and price volatility. This response highlights how energy outlooks influence investment behavior and market expectations. The revised outlook arrives ahead of COP30, where governments are expected to reassess progress toward global climate goals. The International Energy Agency's findings underline the gap between long-term climate ambitions and current policy implementation. While net zero targets remain in place, existing measures are insufficient to align demand trajectories with those goals. And for investors, the outlook reinforces the complexity of the transition. Oil assets may retain economic relevance longer than some transition pathways suggest. At the same time, prolonged reliance on fossil fuels increases long-term regulatory and policy risk, particularly if stronger measures are introduced later to meet climate commitments. Investment decisions therefore involve balancing near-term market realities with long-term transition uncertainty. So here is the takeaway. The International Energy Agency's updated outlook highlights the gap between long-term climate ambitions and the reality of current policy. Under existing conditions, oil demand remains resilient, and energy markets continue to reflect that fact. As the transition unfolds, outcomes will depend less on technological potential and more on how consistently policies are implemented. Thanks for tuning in to Energy Atlas. Until next time, remember, the future of energy is shaped not only by where we want to go, but by the choices we put into the practice today.